What we're going to do now is take a look at what creates bullying, where bullying comes from. First, we're going to take a look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is a tool for understanding the order in which we need to address the needs that arise in people, and in this case children, that we work with. And the reason that this is important is because Maslow's hierarchy posits that the basic human needs that are most closely linked to survival are also the needs or the imperatives that we feel the most strongly. And consequently, if we don't address those basic needs first, we're not going to be able to make any progress on higher order or more complex needs that might be arising. So we always start at the bottom of the pyramid and make sure all of those needs are addressed, and then we move up to the next tier of the pyramid and address those needs, and then we move up again, and so forth. The bottom tier of Maslow's pyramid is the physiological needs tier. So physiological needs includes the most basic needs of survival: breathing, food, and water. For adults, sex is on that list as well. Sleep, homeostasis, which is the ability of the body to maintain a status quo, and excretion. Our ability to perform these basic functions has to be in place if we're going to be able to do any higher order work. The next tier of the pyramid is safety. So in general, safety is the ability to maintain the physiological wellness that is addressed on the bottom tier of the Maslow pyramid. The safety tier includes having your body be safe and secure. It includes having employment so that you know that you'll have the income and the health care and the benefits that you need in order to stay safe. Having enough resources to make sure that you can maintain a home environment with shelter and warmth and food and water in it. Having moral safety, meaning not being in situations where you'll be forced to do things that go against your moral grain. Knowing that your family is safe as well. Knowing that your health is safe or protected, that you're not being forced or required to put yourself in situations that will hazard your physical well-being. And knowing that your property, the things that belong to you, are also safe. The next tier is love and belonging. So we can't start addressing any kind of relationship issues that kids are having until we've addressed the first two, the physiological and the safety needs. When we get to the love and belonging tier, this is the tier where the needs are around interpersonal interactions, the need to have friends, the need to have a family that's supportive and cares about you, and for adults, the need to have sexual intimacy or romantic connections. So the presence of strong, healthy, and robust interpersonal relationships are essential before we progress to the next tier. And that next tier is the esteem tier. So esteem includes our self-esteem, our feelings of worthiness and pride about who we are. It also includes confidence, our faith in ourselves. It includes a sense of achievement, a belief in our achievements and that they're meaningful and valuable. It includes our ability to give respect to other people and our ability to accept the respect of other people who offer it to us. So those are skills that we tend to really want to focus on with kids, especially in program environments where there are emotional or behavioral issues or bullying issues arising. And the value of this pyramid model is to point out that it doesn't make sense to just jump straight to those, that we need to address the other ones first. And then the top of the pyramid is self-actualization. So this includes having your own robust morality. It includes being able to be creative, being able to be spontaneous. It includes problem solving and being able to try to find solutions that are appropriate and acceptable. It includes being able to interact without prejudice, and it includes being able to accept reality. Again, these are skills we tend to jump right to when we're trying to address behavioral issues with kids, and this is at the very top of the pyramid. So look at all the other tiers below it that need to be solid before kids are going to be able to make progress on this tier. It's valuable to keep Maslow's hierarchy of needs in mind, not only for each individual child that you work with, but also for the community environment or the program culture of the classrooms or the groups of kids that you work with. Because just like with each individual, that group needs to have physiological wellness and safety and love and belonging and esteem before you can start working with that group on self-actualization elements like problem solving. Now that we have a working understanding of the different developmental needs that kids might have at different ages, and also the order in which to address those needs, the next thing to understand is the cycle of violence, because the cycle of violence and the cycle of bullying helps understand how you go from kids who are having needs that aren't met and who are feeling vulnerable or hurt or ashamed or afraid or insecure as a result of that, and how that moves forward and forward and forward until you have bullying happening in your program. So when you have vulnerability or hurt or shame or fear or insecurity or another strong emotion of unsafety, what happens is that a fight or flight instinct kicks in. If a fight instinct kicks in, that starts taking you down the bullying path. If you move down that bullying path, what happens is you have that fight instinct. The fight instinct prompts you to sort of lash out at someone. And when you do lash out, although it may feel irrational because it's simply a survival instinct at that moment, when you do it, when you lash out, you get these feelings of pleasure. You feel strong, you feel safe, you feel powerful. Other kids are laughing. Suddenly you don't feel so vulnerable, you don't feel so scared. And it helps, it makes you feel better. And because of that feeling that you feel better, you learn to suppress your empathy, which means you learn to shut down that part of you that notices and feels bad for the kid that you're hurting by bullying. And once you suppress that empathy, once you shut that down, then the bullying intensifies because those feelings of safety and pleasure are so strong and so positive that you want more. And that is how the bullying pathway escalates from initially very minor incidents to eventually very severe ones. Now, let's take a look at what happens if your flight instinct kicks in instead of your fight instinct. So if the flight instinct kicks in, that takes you down the victim pathway. And what happens is you withdraw into yourself, you disengage, and that makes you an easy target for somebody in your same program environment or group who's simultaneously experiencing that fight instinct. You're seen as an outsider or as maybe weaker, or you're seen as scared or strange, and consequently that fight instinct will kick in for someone else, and the flight instinct in you makes you a compelling target. So someone picks on you, they bully you or tease you, and when that happens, it creates feelings of misery or powerlessness. So if you look over again at the bully side, the bully is aggressive as a result of a fight instinct and then gets positive emotions. And then over here on the flight side, the victim gets bullied as a result of a flight instinct and then has negative feelings, feelings of misery and powerlessness. So those misery and powerlessness feelings, instead of leading to a suppression of empathy, which is what the bully's side of the pathway has, on the victim side leads to an intensification of those negative feelings that led to that flight instinct initially. So you feel even more scared, even more vulnerable, even more ashamed, even more unsafe. And then again, you have a fight instinct or a flight instinct. If at that point the fight instinct kicks in, then what happens is the person who was just getting picked on now finds someone else to pick on, and that adds to that bullying culture and that bullying cycle. Now we've got a new victim who's feeling powerless and who's having intensified feelings of fear and shame and insecurity, and so on. But the person who was the victim now becomes the bully, gets those feelings of safety and power, learns to suppress their own empathy, and their bullying intensifies as well. If, on the other hand, even with that intensification, the flight instinct increases, then generally speaking, that person will continue to stay in the victim course, in the victim pathway, and continue to be bullied until eventually it becomes more than they can handle, and they might engage in lethal or non lethal self harming behaviors. So that would include self harming or self hating behaviors. It would include inappropriate or unsafe risk taking. It could even include suicidal ideations or suicidal attempts.